who's the president of the Hialeah campus of Miami-Dade College. Welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. It's great. It's a pleasure.
So Miami-Dade, and they first started down here in the late 60s.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yep.
And we were just kids then. And
right.
So, and lots of campuses. But you're the president of the Hailey campus, right?
Hailey campus, correct.
And tell us a little bit about the campus and about how you wound up getting involved in education and about being a leader in the field.
Sure. So it's my pleasure to serve the community, the surrounding communities of Hialeah. So we serve not only Hialeah itself, the city, but also residents of Hialeah Gardens, Miami Lakes, parts of Medley. So students come from different places around the area. We have, at any given time, any semester, about 6,000 students attending the college. And we're really happy about the facilities and things that we have are relatively new. We went through a major renovation and building construction about 6 years ago. So our students, our faculty and staff are really taking advantage of that. And we have state-of-the-art labs and a lot of different things that we put into place in order to make the student experience better. How do I get up? How did I end up here? So it's a long road. I've been in higher education now for 25 years. Grew up here in Miami and was born in Chicago, grew up in Miami, came here as a kid in the late 70s. Very different place as it is today. I think Miami's a lot more cosmopolitan than it was in 1978. And went to Killian High School.
Cougars?
Cougars. Yeah, Killian Cougars, yeah. Shout out to the Cougars out there. And went then to FIU as an undergraduate. Went to FSU for my master's degree. Then started my doctoral program and actually left so it's about, I would say about 12 years ago, I was in the middle of finishing up my doctoral degree at FIU. At FIU, I did all my coursework and then was doing my dissertation remotely with my dissertation chair, and finished up while I was actually in the Midwest. So I spent about 12 years working in Cincinnati and in St. Louis, mostly student affairs. That's what really my background was. As a vice president first at St. Clair College in Ohio, near Dayton, and then later on in St. Louis for St. Louis Community College as a vice chancellor of student affairs. And the opportunity came about here in Miami to come back and serve the residents of Miami-Dade County, specifically of the Hialeah area, as a campus president. I've been wanting to be a president for a while. And this opportunity came about, and I was very blessed to have that opportunity to come back.
And how long you been president?
A year and a half.
So again, congratulations. It's relatively new position.
Relatively new, yeah.
What are the things that folks, when they're in their bachelor's program, they're moving forward and they say, gee, maybe I'd like to get a doctorate. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that before we get onto the school, the doctorate program. So let's say you have your master's and you say, gee, I'd like to get involved in that.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
What is that like? The course programs and month by month, how does that happen? And is it a classroom, or is it this other type of arrangement you have with the professors?
Sure. I think it varies a lot by program, right? And by discipline. I was lucky enough to be in a program that had like a weekend format, where it was really meant for people who were administrators already and wanted to move up within the ranks of administration. And so I did a weekend program, basically a Friday and Saturday program for 3 years of coursework, and then started work on my dissertation. I think so the coursework or the format will be a little bit different, but in most places you're looking at about 2 to 3 years of coursework, even if you have the master's in that discipline.
Yes.
And then I think the most difficult thing is a dissertation. And it doesn't matter what the discipline is, that's really where it really becomes much more challenging, because when you're doing the coursework, it's very similar to a master's degree. It's not necessarily any more difficult in most cases. But when you get to to the dissertation stage, and before that, you even have to do, you most likely have to do some type of validation of your knowledge by doing some type of comprehensive exams.
In that particular area.
In that area. So when you finish your coursework, you basically take a comprehensive exam that will, and usually that's maybe a 2 to 3 day process of not just written, but also oral examination of testing your knowledge in that field. And if you do pass that, then you go on to then working on your dissertation, which then there's a very critical piece in the dissertation is usually is a dissertation defense. Okay, and that's like the proposal of not just your dissertation, but the proposal defense, which is just saying the first 3 chapters of your it's usually 5 chapters. The first 3 chapters of your dissertation, you're defending that. You're defending why you're studying what you're studying, right? What your study is, what the background is, and what the outcomes will be. What you think outcomes will be of your study, and that's probably the most pivotal one, because if you can't defend that proposal,
and who do you defend it to? In writing or in front of
in front of your committee.
So how many people on the committee?
It depends, but I mean, I had a committee of 5, so it depends. It could be fewer than that. It could be a little bit more than that. Usually, you choose your committee members. You try to pick individuals that are faculty members that are aligned with your interests, and then you have a chair of that committee.
Do they ask you questions as you're going along?
Oh yeah. No, it's like a grilling. It's a grilling. Yeah, it's a courtroom of and why did you do this? And you could have done it this way. And so it's exciting.
I don't remember that part.
Let's just say this: it's exciting, but at the same time, when you're doing it, like I look back and I say that's a really exciting thing, but it's nerve-wracking, as you're doing it, because it's high stakes, right? You have to be able to be able to pass that phase. And if you're able to get through that gate, right, then writing those other 2 chapters and finishing up, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's just at that point you're just finishing the work, right? You're finishing the work.
So when you do the presentation and you're defending the work you've been involved with, how many times is that present? Is that 1 time, 2 times, 5 times?
It's 1 time, and then to do that, to defend your proposal. Once you've done that, then when you finish your entire, the dissertation, then you have to defend the dissertation as a whole, and that's when you're like okay, here So
when you're doing this, is it that you're trying to prove something 1 + 1 is 2, or is it this bigger picture?
Yeah, you always come up with you have research questions that you're trying to address. You have a hypothesis that you're trying to do the research on, and then find out whether or not that is true or not. So my dissertation was on, it's an education, it's higher education, it's something that I wanted to do that would speak to me as an individual. A lot of my experience as a first-generation college student. My parents didn't go to college, so I was the first one in the family to go to college. And then, so parental involvement.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Parental involvement to me was a big deal. I mean, my parents didn't necessarily know, how to tell me what exactly to do, but they always encouraged me to go to, continue my education, how important college was. And they, they were individuals that had worked in factories and things like that in Chicago and had, blue collar jobs, right? And they remember people with ties, and you got to be the guy with the tie, or the woman with the dress, like that's the person I want you to be. So I always knew that I wanted to continue my education. Never thought I would get a doctorate. That was never, I think, an expectation when I was graduating from Killian. But I knew I was going to go went right away into undergraduate. So my dissertation had to deal with, and I'll just simply say, the relationship between parental involvement, right, and the success of first-year Hispanic students in college.
That was
my dissertation. And so you try to, you think that there's a relationship, right? That's what I set out to not prove, but test or research. And based on my research, I found that yes, it has an impact, but the relationship is not as great as through the research as I thought it would be. So you learn from it, right? It's not, I didn't prove it, but at least I learned that it's not as significant as I thought.
And there are some people that that actually some went to Hailey High School that wound up in Harvard. And for us folks that live down south, in years past we would think a certain way about Hialeah as we would our friends down south.
Sure.
And say, well, somebody in Hialeah actually was educated. All right. So and then we see people that are underprivileged, a lot of people of color that have made these tremendous strides, and you think, what was their parental involvement?
Yes.
And if you took it just by the numbers, statistically, all right, you'd say that seemed to be virtually impossible to do that. But yet,
yes,
all right, there are lots of people that are able to pick themselves up because something that is within them, however it got there.
They have grit, they have determination, whatever the case may be. But I still believe, even though my actual research questions did not lead me, to say it's a significant difference, didn't make a significant difference, I believe it made a significant difference in my life. And I've met many individuals that have really gone very far in their careers based on the involvement of their parents. And again, the involvement is not necessarily saying, oh, they could help me with a calculus class or, whatever. It's really about their involvement in encouragement, right? Encouragement and push to say, you can do this, keep going, we're proud of you. And, I remember my parents, my parents are both Cuban, came here in the early 60s, learned English, obviously as a second language, but they would go, as a kid, they would go to all my parent-teacher conferences and talk to the teachers and were very inquisitive and wanted to learn more about what my experience was as a child.
So, and part of that helps build who we are on the parental involvement, even if it's not, as you say, helping with the calculus, right? But in the encouragement, I told my kids when this big, you're going to do 3 things. 1, you're going to go to graduate school somewhere. 2, you're going to learn computers, and 3, you're going to learn Spanish. Well,
2 out of 3. Maybe 2 out of 3.
So, and all that matters, right?
Sure.
Every bit of it does. So how does all that work that you've done in educating yourself, how do you help your students and your faculty in moving forward?
Well, I think that's a great point, because throughout my career, one of the things I try to do is increase access, right, to students to higher education, and also not just access, but try to increase retention and success rates. So a lot of things that I've worked with, whether it be faculty or staff, is really working on ways, looking at strategies, looking at tactics that we can use in higher education to improve those results. And today, more than ever, the state of Florida, all states across the country, are putting a greater emphasis on student success and on the numbers, right? On what are you producing? Because for years and years, and specifically more when it comes to public higher education, right? We're being funded. The majority of our funding comes from the state in this case, and in most states where I've been in St. Louis or when I was in Ohio, same kind of thing. So legislators are in the last, let's say, 10 or 15 years, have really focused a lot more on the numbers, on metrics, and seeing whether or not we're doing our job. So I think that's important, and I think it's also pushed us as higher education administrators, faculty, and staff to really put a bigger emphasis on this. I think we've always had the good intentions, right, of helping those and helping people with more access. I mean, Miami-Dade College has been doing this for 60 years, but and at the same time, and done a really great job. But we continue to evolve in this. We've continued to refine what we're doing and making sure that we are addressing equity gaps. There are a lot of equity gaps right now in higher education when it comes to those who are graduating, those who are not graduating proportionally.
We've seen that most recently in the last year, because people have been working at it. And on one hand, you see the economic boom over here, and on the other side, you see lots of people that are struggling.
Sure.
So, of course, you have the students that are excelling and that look good on the metrics, but then you have the youngster that's he's right there. He's going to go this way or straight or to the.
Yes, sure.
So how do you teach the staff, and how do they know? Let's pay attention to that student over there, because it can make a difference. Now, right across the street from us is J.R. Lee School, which is a school of last resort for elementary and maybe junior high kids over there. So I'm frequently see those kids where this is it, right? Either they're going to go wind up in prison, all right, or they're going to be productive. So what does this Hialeah campus do to pinpoint those students to try to help them?
Well, I think it's a lot. There are many things. I think one thing is building a culture of care, right? I think that historically, and when I went to college, several years ago now, right, over 20 years ago, I think it was like sink or swim for the most part. I think that even, when I was at FIU, and I think in most places, even I'm sure almost any higher education institution, it was like sink or swim. I think you went to class, you didn't go to class. I mean, it was kind of like, and I think, and that's not to say that the people didn't care, but it was more, you're an adult, you can do it, right? Well, the fact is that that's not the case. People come from different backgrounds, different levels of preparation, different ways of thinking, and you can't assume that. You can't assume they may have the good intentions, but they need that support. So I think first and foremost is building a culture on the campus, and we do that, I think, across all our campuses, of care. So when I talk to the faculty and I talk to the staff, I have to make sure that we're on the same wavelength when it comes to the priority of really reaching out to students. So we have amazing faculty that work very closely with our students, and we're a small enough campus that our students know our faculty very, very well, and the faculty do a lot of mentoring, and this is stuff that they do on their own. Like no one's telling them that they have to do it. You know, they do it because they care. So a lot of mentoring, putting students into different internships and things like that give them a lot of great access to different opportunities. And then the staff, you know, working with staff and being very you know, detailed and planning out how the interaction. So when an advisor, we work with our advisors on how many times did you reach out to these, you know, to your students, and what are the conversations that you were having with the students? If they have difficulty, are you sending them to the right resources? Because we have resources at the college that help students bridge those gaps of things that they may there's some deficiencies they come with, that we're helping them bridge those gaps.
And that may be the most positive place they could be that whole day.
Oh, definitely.
Or maybe for a week or a month.
Oh, maybe. Sure. I mean, it's a very supportive environment, and you know, we have students that will, you know, obviously they could be going to class, but students hang around. You know, they hang around. They hang around and they talk, and they groups. They'll talk to faculty, they'll talk to staff. It's a great environment to see that, because. And I've been, I'll be honest with you, I've been at institutions where I haven't seen that, you know, so
obviously in business meetings, it's really the meeting after the meeting. Mm-hmm. That's where it's done.
Yeah.
It's a conversation around the water cooler where it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so often that you'll go to some meeting and then you just move 10 feet and you continue the conversation to where you're not on stage, and it's a little bit easier. I do want to share with you, when I was at Miami-Dade Kendall campus, few decades ago,
sure,
I was struggling in an English class, and the professor comes over to me. She said, "What's the problem?" I said, "I don't know. I've got a really hard time doing this." And she said, "Come with me. We've got a special class." So go to the special class, and it's her office, which is 2 desks.
Okay.
She said, "Sit down there." I said, "Where's the class?" She said, "This is the class." "What's the problem?" I said, "Well, when I start to write, I get frustrated, and then I pull the paper out of the typewriter." That's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
Right? And she says, "Michael, why don't you do this?" Now, this is 50 years ago.
Yeah.
"Michael, when that happens, why don't you just stop, pause, and start again?" And there it is. Because somebody cared enough. So here I am now sharing it with literally, and Tommy can tell you, thousands of people all the time, because that's a way to do it, because somebody cared enough, happened to be at Miami-Dade.
Yeah.
And it's that mentoring, and it's being available, because you can see it, whether you're in the workplace or in school, where you can look at that student, hey, maybe they just need a pat on the back, virtual pat, all right?
Sure.
And be able to have a conversation so that they can make a decision to move forward. So again, how many students are at the Hailey campus?
So during the course of the year, we'll probably serve around 10,000 students. But if you were to take a snapshot of like a semester, around 6,000 students.
Right. And so Hialeah is a pretty big town. It's huge.
It's a very large city compared to, as a municipality. I think it's probably the 4th or something in the whole state.
To give you an idea, so South Miami has around 11,000 people total.
Right.
So the city of South Miami.
Yeah.
Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, sort of in that area. Coral Gables is 40,000. So on your campus there, whether it's virtual or on physically there, how many students are signed up, if you will?
At one time, or in the campus at one time?
No. That go to school there.
6,000.
That's significant.
Yeah, so it's almost as large as some of the municipalities that you're talking about.
Yes.
And we're really, if you think about it, Hialeah has about I don't know exactly what it is right now, but probably the city of Hialeah is probably about 300,000 people. So it's a relatively large city. And then you have, again, not just Hialeah, but you got Hialeah Gardens.
Yes.
You have Miami Lakes. So it's a pretty big area.
So tell us about Que Pasa Hialeah.
Que Pasa Hialeah. All right. So Que Pasa Hialeah started it. Kind of came up with the idea several months back, probably beginning of 2020. Started thinking about ways that I could connect better to myself and the campus to the community, right? And it was also about, well, we're already doing a lot of things on social media, but how can I integrate some kind of like a small talk show? It's only about 10 to 15 minutes. I try to keep it very short because it's not live, and it's basically we'll put it on Instagram, or we'll put it on Facebook. I put it on LinkedIn. And it's basically a conversation that I'll have with either a community leader, a business leader, a faculty member, a student, and kind of talk about what's happening in Hialeah. Like, there are a lot of great things happening. There are a lot of people that are doing innovative things. talk about those things, and then draw it back to how that impacts our students in the campus. And it all started with my idea of Que Pasa, is like that name is Que Pasa USA. I don't know if you remember that show, a PBS show. I grew up with that. I loved that show as a kid. And so I said, well, you know what? Why not say Que Pasa Hialeah? I mean, Hialeah, our campus is 95% Hispanic. And I said, most people will know, and even if you don't, you're in Miami, you know what Que Pasa means anyway. And I said, I think this is a great way to reach out to individuals and kind of and really create that exposure that we need to do for the things that are happening in Hialeah.
One of the things, and we recognize, been in the communication field, my second generation, is that people like it when you reach out to them because you're saying you're important, all right? And it's important enough that we want to share that, all right? And when your students, and in our case, our readers, see that we're doing that, we're trying to draw that connection, all right?
Right.
It does matter because they look to, in this case, you and the administration and the team there, hey, look what the campus is doing. They have this program. I may not like it, I may enjoy it, whatever, but we see that they're reaching out to do that.
Sure.
So, and you do that from where? From your office?
From my office. It's very low tech. I do it on. We use Microsoft Teams, so I basically interview virtually the individual from. I'm in my office there, wherever they are, and it gets recorded, and then I have our media team takes it and then does some tweaking and some editing. Not a whole lot of editing because I tell people it's a casual conversation. There's not editing. It's just like the front end and the back end editing, and we try to put out one every month. That's what we're doing right now. We might go to twice a month. We're getting interest. We're getting interest from individuals now they're reaching out to me, which is interesting because before they weren't doing that.
Just twice a month was great, all right? Because it's sort of like, when you have a horse, you have one horse, you can pull a certain amount of weight. When you have two horses, it's more than double.
Sure.
Right? So,
I got it. Yeah.
All right. So what about some T-shirts? What's going on with T-shirts? You have T-shirts?
Well, T-shirts are a big thing for us. We like to.
Are you wearing one underneath?
I'm not wearing it. No, I'm not gonna. My Superman. No. Our T-shirts. I love Hialeah T-shirts. Is something that we put into place like about a year ago. Actually, our director of administration on the campus, Andrea Ferrero, was the person that came up with the idea. She and her team developed the T-shirts. And we've been trying to get those out into the community because it's not just, it gives you two things, right? It's I love Hialeah, but also I love the Miami-Dade campus of Hialeah, So, and I'm going to actually take that.
Here we go.
I'm prepared.
Here we go. It's coming up, folks.
I'm prepared. So
okay,
I'm just going to tell you, there's here a little bag here. There you go. A bag that I'm going to give you. I love, right?
Okay.
And inside.
Hialeah, folks. Hialeah campus. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. We got two T-shirts here, one for you and your brother.
Okay.
And as you can see.
Oh my goodness. Hey, Tommy, take a look at this, baby. I love Hialeah.
Tommy, we're gonna get you a T-shirt too. Okay. All right. So, just wanted to share that. I'm gonna give you this, and I hope that you and your brother wear them proudly.
Thank you.
And again, it like I said, it does two things. It allows us to emphasize the love that we have for our campus, and also for the city that we serve and the community we serve. And we've been giving those out, not a whole lot, but we've been giving them out at events. We give them out to people that visit the campus and things like that.
All those things matter. And if you don't think they matter, don't do it for a while. And then you're going to go.
What happened to that?
Yes. So you've had some, you have a lot of students here and you have some exceptional students that have done well and gone on some big companies. So tell us about some of those success stories.
Well, we've had, even just recently, we've had a barrage of students, which I think is a good thing in this way. Using barrages of students who have been getting some top-notch internships with NASA, Johnson & Johnson, different corporations, and really enhancing their opportunity to really take their careers to the next step when they finish with us. And remember, most of these students that are doing this are getting a 2-year degree, right? So many of them are in some of the Associates of Science degrees, which are a little bit more applied. So actually by them graduating, they could actually get jobs with these corporations. They don't have to get a bachelor's degree. I hope they will, and they'll continue their education, maybe even a master's degree, but they can get jobs with that. So we've done things with NASA, said Johnson & Johnson, a few others. And all of this has happened really organically, because, and I say organically because our professors and several of our professors, we have a Professor Cruz, which is no relation. I won't take credit, but he's a
Do
great.
they call you Doctor, President, or Professor? What are they?
Dr. Cruz usually,
Okay, right.
but Tony's good.
Okay.
I'm good with Tony. But so Professor Cruz is one of our stellar professors. Dr. Terry, a few others that have really put in a lot of time and effort into building relationships with these organizations and kind of building a pipeline. Like the NASA one has become a very big one. And I say big one, we're a relatively small campus, but we're getting 3 or 4 students that are getting these every semester, and that's a great pipeline for students to get exposed. It's not that they're going to get hired by NASA as soon as they finish, but they're getting exposed to what is NASA looking for.
So we had a gentleman. Hey, Tommy, we had a gentleman on the other day, and why don't you tell the audience and Dr. Cruz who he was and what he say about who's doing all the integral work right now?
Well, the guy was a contractor with NASA that does cryogenics.
Okay.
And how important that is as we explore Mars more. It was really, really super interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Interview.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an hour-long interview, but this guy, I mean, he's saying that we're going to probably colonize the moon and then use that as the jumping-off point to Mars.
Wow, that's extraordinary.
And he also said it's all the youngsters that are writing all that programming.
Yeah.
Right. So I said, how do you get that rocket ship to land over there? He said, Michael, that's he says that's what we do. He says the youngsters, the trajectory, and this, and this. I said, and when you're talking with him, he's pretty bright, and to hear him say, and the young people are helping make that happen. All right. So let's talk about are there scholarships that the young people can apply for?
Oh, sure. I mean, the college has several scholarships, either when you're coming right out of high school, the majority of students that come to Miami-Dade College are coming from high school, but we still have a very big percentage of students that are coming to us at different ages, right? So they could be coming at 25, 35, 55, 65, it doesn't matter the age. And the foundation the college has a great foundation that does a great job of fundraising and then putting those scholarships into effect. And we've been giving away, every year we give away millions of dollars in scholarships. And usually what happens is the ones that come straight from high school, they're told about it and they can automatically qualify for many of those. And then there's other scholarships that the foundation gives that that the students have to apply. But it's a very simple application process. We usually send out an email and advertise it through social media and other means to make sure students know that when is the time to apply for these scholarships. So it's like a time frame, and then you apply, you put in your information, we match you up with the scholarship that best suits you, and then you're given that scholarship. And as you know, we're a great value, to begin with. I mean, even before you get the scholarships, we're a great value. A lot of our students get federal financial aid, but there's still a gap there. So we want to make sure that we fill that gap with the funding needed for those students.
Money should not be an issue.
It is. I'll tell you right now, I don't think it's any issue. Now, I think it's no issue for tuition and books. I think most of those things could get covered one way or another. I think there's still a lot of need out there for students that have other needs, in their lives, and so it's not just about that. They're just living expenses can be a challenge. So I don't want to just say to you, oh, money is not a problem. It is for some of our students, and so that's something that we continue to address. And the way that we're addressing it is to make sure that at least if connecting them with the right resources in our community that can get them that assistance, right?
So do you find the students are embarrassed or shy about that part?
Yes, very much so.
All right. So, I don't know, I don't want to say hang their head down, but what can you do to encourage those people that their parents don't want them to ask for money or ask for help? What words of advice can you give them so they can get the freedom to be able to ask?
Yeah, I think that first of all, it's hard to say this because people will have their own feelings, so I can't overcome their feelings, but I think there is no shame in asking for help. We're here as an institution to help them succeed, right? And they can't succeed. This is the bottom line. If you are hungry, right, or you don't have appropriate shelter, you're not going to be able to succeed as a college student, regardless of your age. So each of our campuses has a food pantry, that we've opened up to make sure that students have access to free food, okay? And we have done other things, and we have a one-stop at most of our campuses, and that really basically is a program that had started in New York, and now it's here, and we've been, it's expanded across the country, and basically connecting students to those things. So there's a counselor that will talk to them in a very friendly manner, and not being judgmental at all, but talking to them about what those gaps are and what those needs are, and seeing how, but there is no shame in this. This is something that we are here to help them. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. We're trying to really get them to succeed. And again, I can't emphasize them enough because I've been in this game long enough, and I know, and I've seen students and how they, either through, their mental health or food insecurity or they're homeless, those things are just so detrimental to people's lives and just stop you, right when you could have the most brilliant person that can't succeed because of those things.
And speaking of youngsters that don't have money, that when they're builders and they want to put up a project, they go and they borrow that money from somebody.
Sure.
They go to banks. We have a whole system that's built on, you don't have the money today, all right? We're going to help you get where you want to get, right?
No, but definitely, yeah. It's not, and I think that there's also reluctance sometimes for students, especially first-generation college students that come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, to even take out loans. I mean, I don't necessarily go out telling students, go take out a loan, but in times I had to do that. It's like at times you have to, if you want to meet certain needs and further your education, it's a good investment, and you're lower interest rates, good terms of paying back those loans. Again, I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it shouldn't stop you. And there is some hesitancy out there. I think, friends of mine and others, like, oh, well, I'm not going to take out a loan, and I remember I was growing up, but I did it for graduate school. I had to do it for graduate school. I did some of it when I was undergraduate because I wanted to finish in time. I wanted to finish, I finished my undergraduate in 4 years. I wanted to finish my master's in 2 years. And the only way I could have done that was to take out a few loans to make sure I could, make ends meet while I was still doing maybe a part-time job.
Is there a direct connection between the internships that the school's involved with and students applying to your school? If somebody says, "Gee, I heard that Miami-Dade's got some NASA internships,"
I don't think it's proportional. I mean, I think it definitely we can work on building more of that. And like I said, a lot of this is, and the college has a division or a department called MDC Works that does work a lot with our students on career development, and then we do a lot of that, a face-to-face interaction with the students on the campuses. But they kind of they provide a lot of that direction at the larger level. I think we're growing that. I think that we are growing that, but I think that we need to grow it more. I think more and more students are looking for those opportunities because those internships are the gateways to those jobs today. It's very difficult. I think it is, just my personal opinion, to just go online and just apply for jobs and not have that, that little bit of experience, to get you in the door. If you don't know somebody, then it's not really about who you know, but it's about what you've done, right? And I think that the internship type of experience, even if it's paid or not paid, gives a great gateway to students to really advance their
And it also
careers.
says to the employer, they cared enough to go learn this stuff, so we're not starting off from zero.
Correct.
Because that's very difficult for small business to be able to say, okay, we got this person, and we got to walk them through every last thing.
Sure.
So this is March, all right? March coming up.
Yeah.
All right. When's the next session? You have a summer session coming up?
Yeah, we do.
What it's called, or spring?
Spring. So right now we're in spring, and we actually, I just want to say that we still have another spring mini term coming up. So we have 2 8-week mini terms within every semester, and so the 8-week mini term will actually start on March 8th, and that will allow students that are currently still interested in registering for classes to maybe take 1 or 2 classes during the mini term. They can still do that, and we do have funding available for those students. So I want to make sure that students are aware, and parents out there that are aware, and grandparents, whoever's watching, that Miami-Dade College, whether it be the Hialeah campus or any other campus, it has this going on. And then for summer, so registration for summer starts actually March 8th as well. So we start those. So once the end of, or the beginning of the second 8-week semester mini term starts March 8th, and our registration opens for the summer semester.
And lots of people want to know is when people are sitting where you are.
Yeah.
When did you realize that you wanted to be the president of an education system, and when did you realize that you wanted to get your master's and a PhD?
Okay, great question. So when did I realize I wanted to be a president of a college? Probably around 12 years ago. I was at that time a dean at a community college in Cincinnati, and I had by that point I had been exposed, to higher education. I worked at FIU for a while. I worked, at these community colleges, and I felt like this is the time. I felt like I'm gonna set a trajectory for myself, a goal of saying I want to be a president. And I really set a goal. I'll just tell you, it's like the goal was I wanted to be a president by the time I was 50, and I accomplished that goal. Other people would say, why? Why is that? But because I felt the reason I wanted to be president is not just so I can say I'm president of a campus or whatever, but I think I wanted to make the biggest impact possible on students' lives. And that's been my whole goal throughout my trajectory in higher education. But I didn't, like I had mentioned before, never thought, when I was 18 years old that I was going to be a college president. I set out, I think when I was 18, my first the major I put down at FIU, when you have to put something down, was accounting. And started looking at accounting, and second semester I was done. I didn't even take a class in accounting. I don't think that's what I want to do. I kind of started reading about it and what people were doing. I talked to some friends that were accounting majors, and I was like, that's not for me. So I changed my major to political science. Did political science, loved it. Absolutely loved everything about political science. Loved the writing, loved the reading, all that. And then I said to myself, okay, so I thought I was going to go to law school, and that's what I thought for a while. I actually took a class that took a constitutional law class that kind of said to me, as a senior at FIU, I said, maybe that's not what I want to do. And started thinking of other avenues. And I started thinking about, well, what, can I work in government? So I started saying, so what kind of degree, other than the political science bachelor's degree, what can I do? So I got a master's in public administration from Florida State. And at Florida State, what I did was I picked out Florida State for a couple of reasons. Number one, in-state tuition, right? It was at the time ranked in the top 20 programs in public administration in the country, and it was in the Capitol. So I said, I got it all. I can do an internship at the Capitol, which I did. I did a couple of them. I can learn about government, and my goal was to say I'm going to graduate and I'm going to start working at maybe city or county government and be a county or city manager. That was my goal at that point. But this was early 90s, 93. There was a recession at that time. Maybe not as bad as the other recessions that have come in, but it was a recession at the time. Not very easy to find jobs. Interviewed for a few jobs here in Miami-Dade at the county, and not with with the county government. Didn't get it, and said to myself, I got to see something. What else can I do? And I got a job. My first job in higher education was working at FIU in the admissions office as a recruiter. And I absolutely loved it. I fell in love with higher education. I fell in love with the fact that.
And you were how old then?
I was 24. So it's like I fell in love with the fact that students come, like there's a constant rotation of students, right? There's always new students coming in, new people you're talking to, and loved the whole environment. And worked in higher ed for the next almost like 10 years. Did pretty well at FIU, going up the different departments, different areas, and then decided, I'm going to go take a shot at the private sector, and I became a financial advisor. I got my stockbroker's license, I got my insurance licenses, and I did that for 3 years until the market crashed back in 2001, and said I'll go back to higher ed, and then that's when I kind of started plotting a course of how can I make a bigger difference.
So lots of times people think, oh, this is where I want to be, and then it's going to be a straight shot.
No
but
straight shot.
It never is that.
Never,
right?
Never that at all. It kind of looks like that now. You're right, because people talk to me and they go, and a lot of people think a lot of times, you just end up in this position, right? And I tell, like, when I talk to academic advisors, which I was at one point at FIU, when I was a recruiter, when I talk to recruiters and people who are on the front lines today, when I talk to them, I said, I've been in your spot, and I know what you're thinking. I know what your job is. And they're like, what? They can't. Because I think they see it such a big stretch, but it's 25 years of learning different things, learning position, and living in different places, and meeting different people. All these experiences have been quite wonderful.
And we have 5 minutes left. I want to share some things that we were involved with. I had some friends that were a few years ago. They were getting their undergraduate degrees at FIU in physiology. Mm-hmm. And I would invite them to the house all the time. I would make sure I had people that had graduate and terminal degrees in the health arena and education right?
Yeah.
And so they could be around them.
Yes.
So one got his doctorate at FIU in physical therapy, and the other one's a nurse practitioner, right?
Wow.
And the other one's still an RN, but getting his master's. So when you look at that, sometimes all it takes is a moment for some direction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's, so to me, if I'm going to go moment, a couple moments, when I was in my master's program, I got into the master's program at Florida State and was in my first semester, and it was a struggle. It was hard. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be, and it was the first time I had lived at home until that point. I lived, and with my parents, and I moved away, and it was quite a struggle. Living on my own, kind of trying to deal with that, and then I was taking 12 credits at the graduate level, and it was quite demanding. But I had a professor, Frances Berry, and I think she still teaches at Florida State, that I said something to her sometime, like, I don't know, I need help with this, or what do you think? I was writing a paper, and she goes, no, you're a great writer. And I had never heard that. It's like from somebody, it's like, you're a great writer. No, what are you talking about? Like I was doubting myself. That's the kind of thing you need from somebody, especially from that level. She has a PhD. She's been a professor for 20 years or plus. To say that was great. And then when I went back to FIU, and I used to work, one of the biggest impacts I had was when I was at FIU, I was a work study student, right? Or as a college work study student in the political science department. And my interaction with those professors and the way they treated me as a person, was a great thing. And when I went back with my master's, I remember the chair, Dr. Gottlieb, and I talked to him, and he said, welcome to the club. Like, he was like so happy that I had gotten my master's degree. And that, those are the kinds of pushes that people have, because you have it in you, but people have to kind of bring it out a little bit and validate that.
So often there is the entrance fee, which is to get to this next level. So yeah, the college offers certificate programs in different arenas, right?
Certificate programs that can be finished in a year. We have an associate degree programs, and that can be transfer degrees that can be straight into college or universities to complete your bachelor's degree. And then we also have bachelor's degrees. So at our campus, we have a bachelor's in supervision and management that students can get. We have certificates in digital marketing at our campus. That's really a relatively new program, which we want to get more students in. We also have a associate's degree in cybersecurity that can get you right into the workforce, after 2 years, and it's very applied.
So lots of students, when they're young, can't really compartmentalize a lot of stuff. So they could take it a step at a time.
Very much.
They could go in a certificate program and say, okay, gee, now I could go get work, and I can go get a 2-year degree, and if they want, they could go get a 4-year degree.
That is correct.
So even if it's piece by piece by piece,
you're still going to get there.
Each one of these gets them into a club.
Yes. And it gives you a credential. It gets you a paper. It gets you something that can get you into that next position or that next step in your career. Correct.
And if and we're going to wrap up in just a couple minutes. If somebody's having some social, emotional problems, and struggling, with themselves and what's going on, what do you suggest they do if they're on campus?
Well, we have a mental health counselor that's right now is operating mostly virtually, but also can be seen in person if need to be. And so they can reach out, to anybody if they can call the general number, which I don't have right now in my head, at the campus, and they can put you in contact with Gabe. Gabe is our counselor mental health counselor, and he can talk through any kind of issue. So whether it's something that they're dealing with anxiety, or they're dealing with some other issue that's going on in the classroom or outside the classroom, or in their personal lives, Gabe is excellent. He can talk to them, and that's a partnership that the college has with Citrus Health. So he's a Citrus Health employee, but he's on our campus, and he's helping our students on a daily basis.
So folks, besides the students, if you're having some problems, you call 211. They can direct you to the help that you need. And if you don't want to make a phone call, go to somebody you trust, all right? And if it's your parents or not, there's an uncle, or you can call the county again, or call the city, call your religious advisor or some spiritual advisor. So please feel free to do that. And if you're a student in Miami-Dade,
call the campus. Just call the campus.
Yes.
Call the campus, whichever campus that you attend. And not all the campuses have a full-time counselor right now. We're working on that, but we definitely have one at Hialeah. And if not, each campus has, like I said, a one-stop, it's called, and they will make a referral to that type of, the mental health counselor or somebody else to get you that help. So it doesn't have to happen on the campus. It also can happen off the campus if you feel more comfortable.
So 40 some odd years ago, I graduated from FIU, and my father says, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life." And he said, well, why don't you do whatever you want to do and do the best you can do at it, and then when you don't want to do it anymore, stop and
You
go
move
do
on.
something else.
Correct.
And so life is.
That's wonderful.
Right now, Dr. Cruz, there's some folks that are watching right now, some young person that would really like to listen to your wisdom. So why don't you tell them in 45 seconds about their future?
Well, I think your future is bright. It's just about looking at what your goals are, making sure that you're making the connections with people. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Get a mentor, and the mentor doesn't have to look like you or even have the same interests as you, but it has to have an interest in you as a person. I feel like in my life, I've had great mentors and people that have guided me, and I think you can do it. And at Miami-Dade College, we have excellent advisors that can help you choose a program of study and help you through that course and we have awesome faculty that can also help you make it happen. And so you can do it. I mean, I did as a first-generation college student, son of immigrants. You can do it as well.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Anthony.
Thank you very much.
President of the Hailey campus, Miami-Dade College. Folks, have a great day. And Tommy, thank you. And folks, go for it.